You ever get that feeling where you're just stuck? You're frustrated, you're trying to force a solution, and it just will not work. Well, today, I want to tell you a simple story about a different way of thinking. It's about two coders, one problem, and this really interesting idea called vibe coding. It might just change how you solve, well, just about anything. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? You're staring at a problem, you've hit a wall, and it feels like the harder you push, the more it pushes back. It's that classic square peg, round hole situation. And that's exactly where our story kicks off. So first, let's meet Mark. Now, Mark is what you'd call a traditional coder. He's all about the rules, the formulas, a very strict line-by-line approach. His whole philosophy is, hey, if you just follow the recipe step by step, you should get the perfect cake at the end, right? Well, today, the recipe just isn't working. Mark is completely caught in this loop. He writes some code, gets an error, gets stuck, checks the manual, rewrites the same bit of code, and then does it all over again. He's just staring at that screen, as the source material puts it, like it owed him rent. It's just this downward spiral of frustration, and honestly, he's sinking fast. But then you have our other character, Lena, and her whole approach, it's just on another planet. While Mark is over there trying to force the solution by hammering away at the rules, Lena is operating on a totally different level. She's not trying to force anything. She's all about following the feeling, about discovering the natural flow of the problem itself. And what's really fascinating is how these two different mindsets lead to completely different actions. You've got Mark glued to the screen, rewriting the same lines of code over and over. And Lena, get this, she closes her eyes, then she pulls out a notebook and starts drawing, just shapes and arrows. She hasn't even touched her keyboard yet. So this unique, kind of relaxed method that Lena's using, it actually has a name. It's a whole philosophy that shifts your focus away from rigid logic and more towards an intuitive kind of understanding. It's called vibe coding. So, what is vibe coding really? Well, it's this idea of aligning your mind with the feeling of a solution. Instead of forcing it, you kind of step back and ask, what does this solution want to be? And then you just let the code emerge naturally from that feeling, from that understanding. And Lena's process, it's not complicated at all. First, she just asks a really simple question. What does this thing I'm building want to do? Then she just imagines it working perfectly, that smooth flow. After that, she sketches out the big picture idea, not the technical stuff. And only then, only when that vibe feels right, does she actually start to write the code. Okay, so let's get back to Mark. He is still stuck. His shoulders are all tensed up, his brain feels like it's buffering. But then he glances over and he sees Lena, just calm and making progress. And his frustration slowly starts turning into curiosity. So when Mark finally asks her for help, Lena gives him this piece of advice that just flips a switch in his brain. She says, stop thinking about the code. Think about the story of the data. Just forget the syntax and the functions for a second. Where is the data coming from? And where does it want to go? What's its journey? And Mark, he actually tries it. He puts down the keyboard, picks up a notebook, and just like he saw Lena do, he starts to visualize that journey. He draws arrows, connecting the pieces, focusing on the story instead of the struggle. And you can almost feel his shoulders just relax. So by letting go of that need to force an answer, by focusing on the feeling and the flow instead, the solution starts to take shape in his mind. It doesn't come from brute force. It comes from real understanding. It's that aha moment we're all looking for. So, by the end of the day, both of them have finished their work. But for Mark, something fundamental has changed. He didn't just solve a single problem. He found a whole new way of working. Mark's realization at the end just says it all, doesn't it? I didn't force it today, I followed the vibe. He gets the difference now. It wasn't about trying harder, it was about thinking differently. He stopped fighting the problem and, well, he started dancing with it. And ultimately, the spirit of vibe coding isn't just for coders, right? It's this idea that true breakthroughs, real creativity, they come from alignment, not from force. When your mind, your tools, and your creativity are all in sync, the work just flows. It's almost like you're making music. And that leaves us with one final thought. Think about your own work, your hobbies, or really any challenge you're facing right now. Is there a place where you're stuck, pushing against a wall just like Mark was? What do you think would happen if you just took a step back, sketched out the story, and tried to follow the vibe?